Deity. Gopi Jana Hlada Karavrajesha Gochara Naranya Krita Pravesha Jive Pibasvamritam Eta Deva Govinda Govinda.
Hare Krishna, our Kartik Parikrama 2019 is taking us to many beautiful places in Sri Vrindavan Dham. Of course, in Vrindavan, everything's beautiful because it's transcendental, even the flies. But this year we've chosen to go to some very brand new places. And we did some research and we've found this very, very beautiful spot in Sri Vrindavan Dham, about an hour and a half's drive from the Vrindavan town. And this is called the Forest of Biharvan. It's not one of the main 12 forests of Vrindavan, but it's a very important forest actually. Biharvan means the forest of enjoyment. And this is a very secluded place where Radha Krishna come and they have very confidential pastimes in the kunjas, the groves of Vrindavan. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that Krishna's Rasa Leela pastimes, they take place all over Vrindavan. If you travel around Vrindavan, you'll see these Rasa Stalis, these little platforms that the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they make for Radha and Krishna and the gopis to dance on. You see those everywhere, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says here in Biharvan, you don't see many of those Rasa Stalis because this is a place where Radha and Krishna come and engage in very confidential pastimes in the bowers of Braj. And by the Lord's grace, that transcendental beauty has been maintained here by the residents, the inhabitants of this area. If there's any place I've been in Vrindavan which you can see even with our naked eyes, with our conditioned eyes, that looks like Vrindavan must have looked 5,000 years ago, it's Biharvan. It's just amazing, it's breathtaking. When you walk in, you see the foliage, the trees, and the bushes, and the squirrels, and the rabbits, and the peacocks, and the parrots, and the blue deer, the blue cows. You see all that here, and it's just so captivating to the heart. And this Biharvan is known also as a place where the cows are nicely protected. Here's a cowherd man. And you can see this calf's just been born like a day or two ago, 2 days ago, brand new. And already she's so peaceful and she's so happy because here they treat the cows as they're meant to be treated, as our mothers actually. One has a special affection for the mothers. So the cowherd boys, they have a special affection for the cows. So the cows feel very loved and therefore they give love. When we walked into the forest of Biharvan, the cows came up to us. Almost as if to greet us, seriously. And they were smelling us and rubbing up against us and wanting us to nudge them and pet them. So yeah, that's Vrindavan. And we know that cows are very, very dear to Lord Krishna. So many paintings and pictures we see Krishna with his cows, and the Vishnu Purana explains how dear cows are to Krishna. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. The two things are especially dear to Krishna, the Brahmins and the cows. And the Brahmins obviously because they are acting as spiritual preceptors, spiritual teachers in society. Their sole profession, you could say, is one of compassion, that they're always giving spiritual discourses day and night. They don't move around very much. That's why the Brahmins always have a big belly. They don't exercise a lot. They're just always preaching Krishna consciousness. So important to have that spiritual message permeating through human society, especially in Kali Yuga, when people are very forgetful of the importance of spiritual life, to have brahmanas doing that. Therefore, they're very dear to Krishna, because Krishna himself comes from the spiritual world with a spiritual message. It's encapsulated in his 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. So those who continue that message, they're very dear to the Lord. And as dear are the cows, because just, for example, material maintenance. We need to have some material maintenance so that we can practice our spiritual lives. Prabhupada said, if you have an acre of land and a cow and a bull, all your economic problems are solved. If you're into simple living and high thinking. The cow, the bull can plow the fields, and we get the grains and the vegetables and ultimately the fruits. And Mother Cow, she gives milk. And Prabhupada describes that milk is a miracle food, in the sense that by drinking hot milk in the evening, the cells in the brain which have died, because as we grow older, the brain cells die, but they're replenished by drinking hot milk. And that's important because we need a good brain to understand Krishna consciousness. Our whole movement is based on a very solid foundation of philosophy. Prabhupada would often say this, although we're singing and dancing, this is not a sentimental movement. It's based on a very sound philosophy, from the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Puranas, the Itihasas, etc. So to understand that, you need some intelligence, and that intelligence is sharpened and maintained and nourished by the milk from Gomata. So therefore we say holy cow. People, why do you call the cow holy? Because she's making our lives holy. She's helping us to understand philosophy, by which we can go deeper and deeper and deeper into the wonderful science of Krishna consciousness and the pastimes of Krishna here in Sri Vrindavan Dham. So cows are very, very dear to Krishna. This one's getting a little restless. Hold on. We hear when Krishna was present here 5,000 years ago, his father Nanda Maharaj had a herd of 900,000 cows. And they're all different shapes and different colors, combination of colors, different moods, etc. like that. And Krishna himself, he had a pet bull. Children like to have pets, so Krishna's cowherd boy, so he had a little pet. The bull was called Padmaganda. It's described in Shastra that little pet bull, he was very handsome. He had expansive gold-plated horns. His hooves were studded with gems, and he always wore a permanent, ever-fresh necklace of garland of red flowers. Very beautiful description. And Krishna, when he got up in the morning, one of the first things he did, of course, was go to milk the cows, and he would greet the cows with the following words. "O mother, have you rested well? O father bull, are you happy?" Then he'd call out the names of the cows. "O Ganga, Godavari, Kalindi," he knew all the cows' names, and the cows, they could smell the fragrance of Krishna, and they would just, their hearts would melt with that, and they would drink his beauty through their eyes. So these cows are described in a very, very beautiful way, and Krishna would milk the cows, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said that really there was no need to milk the cows, because the cows, upon gazing upon the beautiful face of Krishna, their beloved Lord, the milk would automatically flow from their teats. See the loving exchange. All these cows in the spiritual world, we shouldn't think of them just as animals. Actually, they're liberated souls. They're eternal Brajbasis, and they're rendering a particular flavor of service to Krishna, a particular type of love that Krishna enjoys very much. Everything in Vrindavan is permeated with transcendental love. So these are great self-realized souls that their rasa with Krishna is one of a cow. So Krishna reciprocating loving dealings with all these different cows. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says there's two types of cows in the spiritual world. Some of them are Nitya Siddha, eternally liberated, and others are Sadan Siddha. They're devotees who came in contact with Krishna consciousness on this earthly planet, revived their Krishna consciousness, and went back to the spiritual world. But whether one's a Nitya Siddha or a Sadan Siddha in the spiritual world, both are considered eternally liberated. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he describes those cows in a very poetic way. One of my favorite readings. He said, these Sarabi cows, they're like Chintamani jewels that fulfill any desire. Their mooing is the most beautiful poetry. These happy cows are like a pleasant summer, and they always lift their ears when they hear Krishna's flute. And they wander the earth in Gokul pastimes. As they wander the earth in Gokul pastimes, they resemble the bubbles of the milk ocean, the chuckles of Lord Shiva, and the infant children of moonlight. So our understanding comes from the acharyas. We understand things through Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. So this understanding, we're beginning to realize it in our hearts. And like Krishna loves the cows, we also love the cows, not only for our material maintenance, but because they're such loving animals. They're beautiful. I heard Prabhupada say one time, just to look at a cow makes the mind peaceful. So here at Biharvan, besides all the Nikunja pastimes of Radha and Krishna, they're maintaining a beautiful Goshala. And they say that these cows here at Biharvan, in this Goshala, they're a strain of the original cows of Nanda Baba's Goshala. They haven't been mixed with other cows in different parts of India. So if you want to see what the original cows were like, what they look like, what was their mood of love, how beautiful, how pleasing they are to Krishna, come here to Biharvan, walk through the forest as it has been for 5,000 years, peacocks, birds, and come and just, as Krishna would do, I read when Krishna gets up in the morning, with first things he gives a loving embrace to the cows. So come to Biharvan and see this beautiful kunja of Radha and Krishna's pastimes and see the beautiful cows, make your mind peaceful, and do some cow seva. By doing some cow seva, Krishna will be very pleased, and one day he will bless you with his ultimate benediction of Krishna Prema. Biharvan ki, Gomata ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Go Premanandi, Jai Jai Si Radhe Sham.
Govinda, 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 Damodara, Madhaveti, Madhaveti. Madhaveti, Govinda, Govinda, Damodara, Madhaveti, Madhaveti. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Today our Kartik Parikrama party had the good fortune to visit two Leela stans, two holy places here in Vrindavan Dham. One was Yavat and the other is Terkadamba. Yavat is famous as one of the places that Srimati Radharani lived. First, she appeared in Raval, and then her family moved to Varshana when she was a little older, and then when she got married to Abhimanyu, who, by the way, is described by the Acharyas as the shadow of Krishna. She moved to the ancestral home of Abhimanyu. His mother is there, Jatila, his sister, Kotila, and all of them together make it very difficult for Radharani to meet Krishna. And very difficult for Krishna to meet Radharani as well, because, well, she's quote-unquote married, and but nonetheless, Radha and Krishna have a very deep, loving relationship. So it's all accented, you could say. The impediments to meeting make the meeting even more sweeter. It's all keli, it's all playful pastimes in Vrindavan. The mood of Yavat is that Radharani considers it like a prison. She's always trying to get out to meet her beloved Krishna, and Krishna's always trying to enter into Yavat to meet Srimati Radharani. And there's many pastimes connected like that. So we visited there, we discussed this rasa, these playful pastimes, and we sat at Kishori Kund. Kishori is, of course, one of the many names of Srimati Radharani. The Kund, the lake there, is named after her, and it's very beautiful. And actually that's where Srimati Radharani, when she's living at Yavat, that's where she takes her bath every morning. And as such, because it's her Kund, just like Radha Kund is very special because it's the place where Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radhika, takes her snan or her bath. So Kishori Kund is also equal, you could say, in the sense that that water is divine. And it's stated in Shastra that just one drop of that water on one's head, one can fulfill all of one's desires. So one has to be careful when it comes to Vrindavan and hugs desire trees and rolls in the dust, the Brajareno of Vrindavan, and wanders and is seeking to find Krishna, praying in various ways to fulfill our desires. One has to be very careful not to mix any material desires in there. So one time Kamsa, the great tyrant Kamsa, he heard from his spies who were going around Vrindavan trying to arrange different places that Krishna's demons could come and try to kill Krishna. They saw the Braja Gopis and they were just amazed how beautiful these young girls were. In particular, one girl, Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radharani. So this news came back to Kamsa, So Kamsa, he decided he wanted to actually come to Vrindavan. This is Shastrik. He wanted to come to Vrindavan and kidnap Radha and make her his queen. Like Ravana wanted to kidnap Sita. So he made an excuse. He was going to go and look, take a tour of his kingdom, etc. He brought thousands of soldiers and chariots and flags and everything, and they all came towards Yavat. They left Mathura and came to Yavat. And as they got a little closer, Kamsa told all the soldiers to wait some distance behind. He was going to find Radha himself. To make a long story short, he came to that Kund, and as he approached the Kund, because he's an Asura and the Kund is so pure, the Acharyas say the Kund shrunk, and the birds stopped singing, and the soft breezes stopped blowing, the influence of Asura. So anyway, he was thirsty, so the Acharyas say he took some water, and as soon as that water touched his lips, he turned into a gopi. There's different versions of the story, but this is the Shastric version we found. He turned into a gopi, and he was shocked. He saw his reflection, his beautiful eyes and eyelashes and his petite form and the bangles and the jewelry, and he was shocked. And he said, I don't want to be like this. I'm a king, I'm a ruler, I don't want to be a gopi. The power of Vrindavan, that even an Asura like that can externally get that form, not internally, but internally is the real thing. So at that moment, two gopis came to take water from the Kund, and one of them was Lalita. She understood the mind of Kamsa, and Kamsa pleaded to her, please get me out of this situation. So Lalita took Kamsa to see Radha. Radha gave him darshan, and Radharani knew his purpose in coming, and he was begging her to free him from that form because he's an emperor. So she said, I'll make a deal with you. We will change you back into your other form if you promise never to send any more demons from Mathura to try to kill our Krishna. So Kamsa said, yes, I promise, I promise, I promise, I promise, I promise, I promise. So Radharani said, you really promise? Because if you break your promise, I'll make sure you're a gopi forever. So Kamsa fell down on the ground and asked for forgiveness. And so Radharani said, to Lalita, take him to the back to the Kund, and he'll bathe in the Kund, and he'll get back that form of Kamsa, which is actually what happened. And one of the Acharyas has commented that as Radha watched Lalita and Kamsa go back to the Kund to change back into his form by bathing there, that Radharani was thinking that the way he achieved that gopi form is the same aspiration of the sahajas who, by any proper practice of Krishna consciousness, just dressing as a gopi, tried to assume that form of a gopi. It's not like that. There's a whole process beginning from ado shraddha tata sadhu sangha to bhajana kriya, from the general practice of Krishna consciousness. It's a long haul, but we know the Siddhanta. So then Radha thought, actually, but one can achieve that the topmost platform of Krishna consciousness, if it's such, to be a gopi or a gopa, or a tree or a cow in the spiritual world, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and service to a Sankirtan movement. I thought that was a very nice ending. So we put the water on our head, and I begged to become a good disciple, nothing more, nothing less, because all we are made of really is Prabhupada's mercy. To continue serving him life after life. Then we walked from Yavat here to Terkadamba. It's a famous walk actually through the fields in the dust, just like Vrindavan was in the old days, in the town proper. It took us about an hour to get here with 350 devotees, and we explained the glories of Terkadamba. In brief, Tara means to call, and Kadamba means tree. So this is one place where Krishna, after he took charge of the cows, after Gopastami, he would bring the cows here to this beautiful forested area, and they would graze the cows here, Krishna, Balaram, and the boys. And when it came time to go home, back to Nandagram, Krishna would climb a big Kadamba tree, and with his flute, he would call the name of each and every cow. Now, Nanda Maharaj has 900,000 cows. That's why he's called king. He's not a king in the sense of a kshatriya, but real wealth in Vedic culture is not coins and paper money. It's land and cows. So he's king because he had 900,000 cows. So the cows would come and they'd graze, and in the evening they'd go home. Krishna would climb the kadamba tree, and with his flute he would say the name of each of the cows, and he had a string of pearls, like counter beads, 900,000. So as each cow came, he'd pull the pearl down, and then when all 900,000 pearls, they'd go home. Another very significant pastime for us Gaudiya Vaishnavas is this is one of the bhajan kutirs. The bhajan stali is one of the places that Rupa Goswami would come and do his bhajan. The Goswamis would go all over Vrindavan. They had different bhajan kutirs, different places they chanted and read and wrote the scriptures that Mahaprabhu requested. He very much favored this place, Ter Kadamba, and this is where he wrote Upadeshamrita. The British government stated in their investigation into our movement that the book which most perfectly describes our philosophy and culture is Upadeshamrita with Prabhupada's purports. Found that very interesting. He wrote that here. In the midst of writing that book here, one day he just remembered on that day, he thought, oh my gosh, I forgot. Today is my brother, my older brother Sanatan Goswami's appearance day, and I have nothing to offer him. Sanatan Goswami at that time was staying at Nandagram at Pavana Sarovara, a beautiful lake next to Nandagram. He was doing his bhajan there, not far from here. So Rupa Goswami is in great anxiety. He wanted to honor his brother. Just at that moment, a young girl came out of the jungle carrying a big plate of sweet rice. Big plate of sweet rice. And she came up to Rupa and she said, there was a wedding at Nandagram and I saved this sweet rice for you. You're a Baba living in the forest. You please accept it. So Rupa was in ecstasy because now he had something to give Sanatan Goswami. Many devotees know this pastime. So he took that sweet rice and he went to Pavana Sarovara, he went to Nandagram, and he offered it to Sanatan Goswami on his appearance day. Sanatan Goswami said, you're a Babaji, you don't have the means to cook such an opulent preparation as this. You live by Madhukari, you live by begging. You go to 4 houses a day and get your sustenance. And where did you get this? Oh, Rupa said, Rupa Goswami said this young girl came with the sweet rice, and so they tasted it, and when they tasted it, all the 8 symptoms of love of God had appeared on their bodies. Tears flowed from their eyes, their hair stood on end, their voice, and they fainted. And when they woke up, Sanatan Goswami said to Rupa Goswami, where did you get that sweet rice? One girl came. What did she look like? What were her mannerisms? What were her characteristics? So as Rupa Goswami started describing this young girl, they both realized that through that description, it was none other than Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radhika herself. She's so kind. Very deep, loving exchange between Radharani and her devotees. So that pastime also happened here. So this is a favorite place of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Yavat, where it's arranged in such a way that the obstacles are there to meet Krishna, so the meeting is very sweet. When Krishna gets into Yavat and Radharani gets out, and then the long walk through the fields here, and then Ter Kadamba with its history, we're very much relishing, and we're coming to the conclusion of our Kartik Parikrama. So we have mixed emotions now. We're so much relishing. We feel so purified. We're so grateful to Prabhupada for inviting us here. I mean, we're lamenting it's soon going to be over, but by Krishna's grace, Prabhupada's mercy, we hope to be back again next year. If you're watching these videos, keep in touch and come with us, because nothing compares to actually coming to the original Dham of Sri Vrindavan Dham and Shravanam, Kirtanam, Krishna Smaranam. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna. Today, on our Kartik Parikrama, we're very blessed to come with a large group of devotees. Actually, our group has swelled to 350. Nothing like Radha Swami's 8,000, but very nice devotees, and from 14 different countries. And we've come to the village of Karhala, which is the home of Champakalata, one of the Astasakis, one of the 8 girlfriends of Srimati Radharani. As we know, Srimati Radharani, she lives in Varshana with her family, but her close girlfriends, the 8 Sakis, their villages are around Varshana. Like if you could look up at a bird's eye view, you'd see all the different 8 villages of the Sakis. And each of those Sakis also has 8 very close friends. And they have 8 friends, and they have 8 friends. It's called Gopi Gana. There's millions and millions, actually, of different groups of gopis with different colors of dresses, different attitudes, different services. There's that saying that variety is the spice of life. And that's especially true in the pure world of Vrindavan. So I'd just like to name the 8 girlfriends of Champakalata, because it's just so sweet, the names. Padma Nayana, Sunetra, Kama Deepika, Navanita Priya, Pradipika, Sukarni, Raksan Yukta Venika, and Sukeshi. So Champakalata, it's described that she's 2 days younger than Srimati Radharani. Her complexion is like a cluster of yellow champak flowers. She's a master of cooking in all 6 flavors. She has a special name, actually. She has a nickname. I never heard that before, that the residents of Vrindavan have nicknames. Her nickname is Mishtahashta. Mishtahashta means sweet hands, and she's given that name because she's very expert. Her specialty is making candy for the pleasure of Radha and Krishna. And she serves the divine couple by offering them necklaces, and she's always fanning them with a chamara. When we think this is the spiritual world, there's be so many grand activities going on, but it's not so much the activity in Krishna consciousness as the consciousness behind it. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, one can offer me with love a fruit, a flower, or a leaf. These are small things, but the main ingredient in Krishna consciousness is devotion. So when we get back to the spiritual world, the life in Vrindavan is very simple, but it's saturated with prema. So all the activities the Brajbasis are doing in the village is with pure devotion for the Lord. Champakalata is also the leader of the gopis who care for trees, creepers, flowers, and bushes in Vrindavan. She knows where every kind of fruit, flower, and root can be found in Vrindavan's forests. And her particular grove, because each of the Sakis, they have their different groves, which they take care of, and where they meet their beloved Krishna. Her grove is on the banks of Radha Kund, and everything there is the color of molten gold. So these are details, but Prabhupada said details a sign of love. And these details are very captivating. This is why we fall in love with Krishna consciousness, because we have all these beautiful details of the spiritual world. And yes, this is her village, so we've come here praying for her mercy. Not far from where I'm sitting right now is the Samadhi Mandir of Bradranabha. Bradranabha is the great-grandson of Krishna, and he was a king, actually. He served as king of this area. And after the departure of Lord Krishna, which is not something that Vaishnavas generally like to talk about, but after the Lord's departure from this world back to the spiritual world, we can just imagine the separation that the residents of Vrindavan were feeling for Krishna. Because the nature of Krishna conscious love is that Krishna's devotees, they love Krishna more than anyone's ever been loved before. And that love increasing ad infinitum. So when you lose something, you feel that separation, the intensity of that separation according to the amount of attachment you had. So we can hardly imagine how the residents of Vrindavan felt when Krishna left. Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has given us a little understanding in his Shikshastra compares. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years and more, and tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain. So Bradranabha came up with a nice idea because nobody could do anything. They were just devastated. So he came up with the idea, which is an integral part of our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, and that is that he established deities of Krishna and Balaram and also Vrindadevi in different parts of Vrindavan to mitigate the suffering of the Brajvasis, because as we know, the deity of Krishna is not different than Krishna himself. The Brahmin boy who accompanied the elder Brahmin to Vrindavan, the elder Brahmin promised in front of the deity that boy could marry his elder daughter, but when he got back to Orissa, he changed his mind. So the Brahmin boy went back to Vrindavan and came before that deity of Shakshi Gopal, the witness deity, and he asked for his help to stand as witness in Orissa. So the deity said, but I'm a deity, I can't walk. And the little intelligent Brahmin boy said, Lord, if you can talk, you can walk. So that way we can understand that the deity is non-different than Krishna. And one golden rule in deity worship is that we should always remember the deity is a person. So in this way, Bradranabha established different deities around Vrindavan. And those deities are still being worshipped here in Vrindavan, some of them in Jaipur. One, Keshava, he's being worshipped in Kanpur, is still here 5,000 years later. So Bradranabha's Samadhi is here next to the village of Champakalata. When Samadhis are established, they're established in a holy place, in Vrindavan, near a temple, or near a Leela Snan where something happening. So this Samadhi of Bradranabha's, 5,000 years old, it was discovered just a few years ago by one saint, one Mahatma, one devotee. By historical records, he found it. It's mystical, actually. And he renovated that area. It was just a little rock there marking it, but he built a beautiful mandir there. And these samadhis are very, very, very important because by visiting these samadhis of saints, offering obeisances, circumambulating them, offering prayers and article worships, a sincere devotee can actually receive the mercy of these great souls. We can actually they're present in their samadhis. One time, a disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a follower of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he asked if when we pray to the saints or the acharyas from previous ages, do they hear us? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur's reply was, yes, they hear, and they also reciprocate. So these relationships are on the transcendental platform. They're not limited by time and space, our relationship with great saints and previous acharyas. So when we go to the samadhis, we can pray to those devotees and they'll hear our prayers and they'll reciprocate with us. This is so important, actually, the samadhis in Vrindavan. They're not graves. They're divine places where we can reveal our heart to the saints and ask for their mercy because, well, that's the process of Krishna consciousness. We don't approach the Lord directly. Krishna says, one who says he's my devotee is not my devotee, but one who's the devotee of my devotee, he's my devotee. So when you come to Vrindavan, we go to the temples, we go to the Leela Stans, but we must also visit the samadhis. Of course, for ISKCON devotees, our favorite samadhi is the samadhi of Srila Prabhupada at our Krishna Balaram Mandir. And myself personally, when I come to Vrindavan, I try to come every year, but when I come and then I go, my first stop is Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi, where I make a report of my yearly, what I've done that year, my annual report of my devotional service. This is how we we keep in touch. So, yes, like this, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has stated that there's an intimate connection to remembering our great saints and attaining eternal residence in Vrindavan. Every devotee's desire is to eventually live in Vrindavan eternally. That's where our home is. And remembering the saints is integral to achieving that goal. I'll just read a brief paragraph. In Gita Valley, Bhaktivinoda Thakur states, "You should all remember Srila Kavikarna Purna and all his family members, who are all sincere servants of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You should also remember the father of Kavikarna Purna, Shivananda Sen. Always remember all those Vaishnavas who strictly follow the path of Srila Rupa Goswami and who are absorbed in bhajan. If you actually want residence in the land of Braja, then you must remember all the Vaishnavas who are followers of Srila Rupa Goswami." So we've come here to take darshan of Champakalata, to walk in the dust, the Bradranabha of this holy place, to pray for her mercy. And we've come to this Samadhi, the beautiful Samadhi of Bradranabha, remembering all the wonderful deities that he established, and we're doing what we do. And this is what we do as Hare Krishna devotees. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. We hear and chant about Krishna and we remember him, and that's particularly potent when we come to the Dham. It's said that the results of one's activities here, devotional activities, are magnified 1,000 times. So we take advantage, and that's particularly true in the month of Kartik. Senior devotees are speaking, our Badahari Prabhu is leading us in Kirtan, and we're relishing and relishing and relishing, and our hope against hope is to one time in the future, one day become a Brajabasi and take our good fortune back to our countries and bring people back to this transcendental abode, this playground of God. Champakalata ki, Bradranabha ki, Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki, Goloka Vrindavan Dham ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today, our Parikrama party has come to a very special part of Vrindavan. We've come to Varshana. Actually, before we walk up the sacred hill of Varshana, we're visiting the village of Chitradevi, called Chiksoli. Many devotees know that Srimati Radharani, the Lord's eternal consort, she has a group of girlfriends who assist her in many ways. They're called Sakhis. If you go to Mayapur, our big Mayapur temple, you'll see beautiful Radha Madhava on the altar, and on either side are 4 assistants of Srimati Radharani, the Sakhis. And one of those Sakhis is Chitradevi. The Sakhis are around the age of Srimati Radharani. They're, you could say, 9, 10 years of age. And each of those Sakhis has a group of helpers called Manjaris. They're much younger, 6 or 7, or maybe even younger than that. But these are Krishna's girlfriends. And each of these 8 Sakhis, they have their villages surrounding Varshana. The history of Varshana is very interesting. Actually, it goes way, way back. Actually, it's eternal, but the pastime is such that towards the end of Satya Yuga, Lord Brahma was thinking that he'd like to be part of the pastimes of Lord Krishna when he came in his Swayam Bhagavan, when it came in his original form at the end of Dwapara Yuga. So he was thinking what type of service he could do. He was thinking how he could get mercy from the Lord, from Krishna. So he performed great penances and great austerities to get the boon that at the end of Dwapara Yuga, when Krishna came, he could be a hill in Vrindavan. Why would someone want to become a hill? We have many spiritual desires. We think, I'd like to be a pujari, I'd like to be a Sankirtan devotee, I'd like to be a cook and cook for the Lord and for the devotees. Brahma wanted to be a hill. The reason he wanted to be a hill is because he was thinking, if I'm a hill, then I'll get the mercy of Krishna and Srimati Radharani, the gopis and the cowherd boys. Their soft pink lotus feet will traverse on my head. What greater benediction could you want than to have the dust of the feet of devotees or the Lord himself on your head? So he prayed like that, and that desire was fulfilled. This is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Our material desires may or may not be fulfilled, but our spiritual desires, if they're sincere, in due course of time, the Lord will fulfill them so that we can serve him to our heart's content. So in Dwapara Yuga, at the end of Dwapara Yuga, when Krishna appeared, Brahma became a hill. Specifically, he became, like you could say, there was the hill, but there were 4 parts of that hill, rises in those hills. And one of those rises is called Varshana. And that is the eternal home of King Vrishabhanu and Kirtida Sundari, who are the illustrious parents of Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani. They lived there in a palace, that family. We know that Radharani was born in Raval, but when Krishna moved from Gokul to Nandagram, when he was a little older boy, Radharani's parents moved from Raval to Varshana. And the name or the word Varshana has a wonderful meaning. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes it means a shower of bliss. Varshana is a constant shower of bliss because of the presence of Srimati Radharani's transcendental form, her attributes, her service, her mood of loving service to Krishna. That place is called Varshana because of that constant flow of bliss. And Radharani has that name as well. Varshana Rani, the queen of Varshana. So many of her childhood pastimes took place there. She and her girlfriends would roam the wooded areas around there, like young girls do, in a playful way. When they had service to do, to take the milk products from where they were being made, the milking the cows, they'd take them to the market. Sometimes Krishna would come with his friends and he would stop them and he would tax them, the Don Gatti Pastimes. We think of Don Gatti as a place at Govardhan, but there's many Don Gatti pastimes. It's one of the main pastimes at Vrindavan. That took place all over Varshana. And there's a beautiful temple on the top of the hill of Varshana. Perhaps part of the original palace, you could say, the palace of King Vrishabhanu. There's a beautiful deity of Sriji, beautiful deity of Radharani that was found by Narayan Bhatta Goswami, one famous personality who discovered many holy places there. He found that deity is nicely established, so the majesty of the place and the beauty of the place and the mood, the predominating mood of Radharani's Mahabhav is present there, her mercy is there. She's one of the three personalities who experiences that special Mahabhav. Radharani, Lord Chaitanya, and Madhavinda Puri. So devotees who want to serve Krishna, who want to serve Radha and Krishna, they go to Varshana and they pray to her because she has so much love and devotion for Krishna, the topmost love and devotion for Krishna. She's in charge of devotion. So if we want to serve Krishna, which means with devotion, we pray to her to please accept our devotion, and you offer to Krishna or tell Krishna about us. One time Prabhupada said, Srimati Radharani is in charge of devotion, so even if she sees her on this earthly planet, one devotee is just joining the temple and wants to serve Krishna. She whispers to Krishna, my dear beloved, there's a devotee on the earth planet or somewhere in the creation who is aspiring for you. Please accept that service. That's how merciful Vrindavaneshwari is. She's so exalted, but she's so compassionate. So we're here today at Varshana begging for her mercy to be proper devotees of the Lord, to be trained in devotional service. Actually, we pray like that every day. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My dear Lord, my dear energy of the Lord, Prabhupada translates that. My dear Radharani, Ladini Shakti, please engage me in your loving devotional service. So we're starting here today in the village of Chitradevi. She's one of Radharani's favorite gopis. She's very artistic, she's a good cook, she's a musician. So many ways she serves, so we're coming to take shelter of her. Servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. This is the secret of devotional service. In the material world, you don't want to be anybody's servant, generally, because you get exploited. But in Krishna consciousness, we want to be the servant. It's our nature to be the servant. And if we're at the bottom of the pile, we get the most mercy, because Vaishnavas are very compassionate. So we're starting here. We'll come back again and again throughout our lives visiting different villages, but you'll see in this video, this is a very, very beautiful village, and our group is full of very many beautiful devotees seeking the mercy of the Lord through the medium of Hare Katha, Krishna Katha, chanting Hare Krishna, taking prasadam, and walking up the mountain of Varshana to the top and then back down to the bottom, where we'll take prasadam, which is the natural course of activities when you come to this abode of bliss. Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani ki, Shri Shri Radhasham Sundar ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Gokul Dham ki, Goloka Dham ki, back home, back to Godhead ki. Hare Krishna.
Shama Shama Sita Jai Radhe Jai Radhe Radhe Shama Shama Sita Jai Radhe
Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite. Vrishabhanu Dadhi Navashashi Lekhe Lalita Sakhi Gunaramita Vishakhe. Radhe
Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, today our 2019 Parikrama party has come to a very special, a very unique village in Vrindavan. I'm not sure that many ISKCON devotees know about this place. Perhaps the Braj Mandal Parikrama party comes here, I'm not sure, but this is certainly a very, very unique place. This is the village of Phalen. It's a good hour and a half drive from Vrindavan proper. This is the place where the Brajabasis honor the faith, the devotion, and the love of Prahlad Maharaj. It's interesting. We know that Prahlad Maharaj is a Vaikunthavasi. He's a devotee of Lord Nrsingadev, and he resides eternally in Vaikuntha with Lord Nrsingadev. We know the mood in Vaikuntha in general is one of Aishwarya Bhav, or one of awe and reverence. And the topmost planet in the spiritual world is Goloka Vrindavan, where there's the spontaneous love of the residents of Vrindavan for Lord Krishna. They wrestle with Krishna, they dance with Krishna, they eat with Krishna, etc. So it's interesting that the residents of Vrindavan here, in Gokul Vrindavan, they have so much appreciation for Prahlad Maharaj. Again, it's because Prahlad Maharaj's love and devotion and surrender to the Lord, to Vishnu, or to Krishna, specifically to Lord Nrsingadev. And they honor Prahlad Maharaj once a year here in this town. There's a big ceremony where they remember the pastime of the sister of Hiranyakashipu. Her name was Holika. We all know that Hiranyakashipu, he was the greatest asura of all time, but the irony of life is such that his son was the best devotee of all time, you could say. An interesting comparison. The greatest asura living with the greatest devotee. There's many reasons for that, but we can get an idea who we want to follow, which path we want to follow, the path of Hiranyakashipu or the illustrious path of Prahlad Maharaj. But we know the story in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that because Prahlad Maharaj was a devotee of Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu was the enemy of Hiranyakashipu, it got to the point where Hiranyakashipu wanted to kill his own son. Hard to imagine, but he wanted to kill his own son. So he tried in so many ways. He threw Prahlad Maharaj off a cliff. He had him trampled by elephants. He threw them in a pit of snakes. He poisoned him. But it wasn't possible to kill Prahlad Maharaj because he's a devotee of the Lord. Rakhe Krishna Mari Krishna Rakhe. We say in Bengali that if Krishna wants to kill a devotee, no one can save him. And if Krishna wants to save a devotee, no one can kill him. And that's demonstrated perfectly in this pastime of Prahlad Maharaj. Hiranyakashipu wanted to kill him, but he just couldn't because Prahlad was protected by Lord Vishnu. And actually that protection's not given just to pure devotees. The Lord also offers his protection, his mercy, to even aspiring devotees. There's the famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam saranam braja. Krishna says to aspiring people who are thinking about becoming devotees, just abandon all dharma, material dharma, and surrender to me, Sanatana Dharma. And what will happen? I'll protect you from all sinful reactions. So the Lord's not speaking to pure devotees, Nitya Siddhas, or Sadhan Siddhas. It's appealing to young devotees. So the Lord's protection is there for everyone. So this pastime is very inspiring, actually. Hiranyakashipu couldn't kill Prahlad Maharaj, so he was thinking more and more, how to do this. He's my enemy, he's a devotee of Vishnu, he's preaching Krishna consciousness in the schools and making all the little demons devotees. It was infuriating him. So he thought, one last resort. I will go to Lord Shiva, Hiranyakashipu was thinking. This is described by our acharyas. And I will ask him for the ultimate destructive force. What is the ultimate destructive force? It's fire. At the time of devastation, when the creation is a partial devastation, you could say there's a devastation and it happens again and again. Creation, destruction, etc. Lord Shiva, to destroy the cosmos, he does a special dance. And he has a drum. We've seen this drum in India, the Shiva Bhaktas have it. Makes a noise like that. He dances with this drum, and so much friction is created, everything's destroyed by fire. So Hiranyakashipu, he went to Lord Shiva and he asked, can I borrow that ultimate destructive force, that fire, the fire of annihilation, the time of annihilation? And Lord Shiva is Ashutosh, he's easily pleased and easily displeased. He has this thankless task of giving boons to the demons. So he borrowed that force, that fire. And Hiranyakashipu, he built a funeral pyre. He put a wooden chair on top of that funeral pyre. And he called for Prahlad, who was in chains. Then he called for his sister, Holika. Hiranyakashipu has a sister. She's as sinister as her brother. The DNA. She was a Rakshashi. And he asked her to sit on top of the funeral pyre on the chair with Prahlad on her lap. And he would light the funeral pyre with this fire of annihilation. So someone may question, what's he putting his sister on the funeral pyre? Blood is thicker than water. Our family members are very dear to us. But Holika also had a benediction, just as Hiranyakashipu had a benediction from Lord Brahma. By dint of his austerities, he became very powerful. So his sister also went to Lord Brahma, and she got a benediction by her penances and austerities that she could never be burned by fire. Interesting benediction. That's what she wanted. So, to make sure that Prahlad wouldn't escape from the funeral pyre, Hiranyakashipu had Holika sit on top of the fire in the chair, and that Prahlad would sit there and she'd hold him, and he'd light the fire and Prahlad would be finished. So that happened. A huge crowd assembled. Different asuras assembled to watch with joy how a Vaishnava was being punished. Hiranyakashipu lit the fire. It was so bright no one could look. Just like when an atomic bomb goes off. No one can look, it's too bright. And it took a long time, several weeks, for the fire to burn. Everyone was waiting to see Holika skip away from the fire at the end. And Prahlad burned to ashes. When the fire calmed down and the people opened their eyes, it was Prahlad Maharaj skipping away from the fire with that Gurukul tune. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Some devotees say that's the Gurukul tune. The kids in the Gurukul like that tune. Skipping away. Holika was burned to ashes. Everyone's wondering what happened. But our acharyas, they explain that the boon that Holika received from Lord Brahma, she could never be burnt by fire. It was cancelled because of Vaishnava aparat. Not just Vaishnava aparat, but Vaishnava aparat to a devotee of the character of Prahlad Maharaj, who's one of the 12 Mahajans. such a sweet devotee with so much faith in Krishna, so much love for Krishna. The boon was cancelled. There's many things to be learned by one singular pastime. Many things, different angles we can study and speak about and benefit from. So this is a warning. Don't commit Vaishnava aparat. If we see a fault in a devotee, it's not surprising. We've been in this material world for a long time, so some contamination may remain. But nothing inauspicious can remain for very long in the presence of Sri Krishna's holy name. Kaler dosha nidhe rajan astika mahaguna kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha paramaja. This is the most inauspicious of all ages. Even if you want to be a good person, you're forced to be bad by bad association. So everyone may come with some dirt in the heart, but we should have faith that by chanting Hare Krishna, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, and rather we should focus on that devotee's good qualities. So because of that offense to Prahlad Maharaj, the boon was cancelled and she was burned to her crisp. So the people of Braj, they appreciate faith in Krishna. One's advancement in Krishna consciousness can be understood by how much faith one has in Guru and Gauranga. That faith is earned by association, taking prasadam, chanting the holy names, and serving the mission of one's spiritual master, serving the mission of Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya in this world. So the Brajabasis, they always appreciate that shraddha, that faith, which brings forth prema, or brings forth love. So they really appreciate Prahlad Maharaj. He's a Vaikunthavasi, but they very much appreciate that faith and surrender. So here in this particular village of Valain, they reenact that pastime every year. I came here a few months ago to see if this would be a good place for our parikrama, and that funeral pyre had burned down a couple of days before. It was still smoldering, and there were the ashes of Holika. And people were still speaking about Prahlad Maharaj. So they reenact that. And Shastra actually says, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this pastime of Nrsingadev happened in deliverance of Prahlad Maharaj happened in Satya Yuga. So he said, when Krishna came in Dwapara Yuga, he so much appreciates the love of his devotee Prahlad Maharaj that Krishna himself would come every year to this village when he was present on this planet to honor the love and faith of his devotion, of his devotee Prahlad Maharaj. It's amazing. Krishna would come when he was on this planet. So we come. Also, we're not being, at this moment at least, our movement's not being persecuted like that, thrown to the feet of elements, thrown off of cliffs, poisoned, but we have enemies. We have enemies within. In the Gita, Krishna says, within the heart is lust, anger, and greed, and they are the gates to hell. They're the obstacles to our devotion to Krishna. So we come here and we pray to Lord Nrsingadev, we pray to Prahlad Maharaj, help us get rid of our enemies so we can nicely serve Srila Prabhupada, we can be valuable instruments in the service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We come in that mood, we take shelter of Prahlad, we take shelter of Lord Nrsingadev, and we go to the Kund. This is called Prahlad Kund. There's so many amazing kunds with, Brajabasi names. This is one Kund called Prahlad Kund. We come here and take the water on our head and pray for that protection. And pray for the faith and the love and the devotion that Prahlad Maharaj had for Lord Nrsingadev. Nrsingadev is present here in Vrindavan in Nanda Bhavan, with the house of Nanda Baba, where Krishna lived as a little boy. There's a deity of Prahlad Maharaj. There's a deity of Prahlad Maharaj in the center of Vrindavan. There's a deity of Lord Nrsingadev in the center of Vrindavan. A deity of Nrsingadev in Nanda Bhavan, a deity of Nrsingadev in the center of Vrindavan, and there's a deity of Nrsingadev in the southern point of Govardhan Hill. So Nrsingadev is appreciated by the Brajabasis. So come to Vrindavan, and if you have the chance, come to this particular village, take the water of Prahlad Kund upon your head, and get the mercy of Lord Nrsingadev, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur prayed. He's on the threshold of Nrsingadev's palace, he says in a poem, praying for that half man, half lion personality of God to remove all anarthas on the path to Braj, so he can properly, with devotion, worship the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radharasham Sundar. Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki, Bhagavan Narasimha ki, the village of Falin ki, Prahlad Kund ki, Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki, Jai Jai Sri Radhe Shyam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Ram, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
राधे राधे बोलो, वृंदावन में डोलो। थैंक यू।
Hare Krishna, and welcome to our Vrindavan Parikram 2019. It's never overstated how much Srila Prabhupada encouraged that his disciples should come to the Holy Dham, should visit these places of the pastimes of the Lord, and should relish talking about these pastimes while there. Srila Prabhupada himself personally took the devotees around Vrindavan to the different temples and the different places where Krishna engaged in his pastimes when he was appearing here 5,000 years ago. So therefore, following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, each year we try to assemble a group of enthusiastic and interested devotees to come and go to all the holy places that we're able to here in this most holy land of Brajadam. Today, we have come for the first time to this beautiful place of Akrura Ghat. We all know how Akrura was a great devotee of the Lord, but somehow was engaged in the service of Kamsa as one of his ministers. And due to that service, when Kamsa wanted to bring difficulty, he sent Akrura to secure Krishna and Balaram and take them away from Vrindavan, where he had no success with his efforts, and bring them to Mathura, where he hoped to vanquish them. How foolish Kamsa is, wouldn't you say? At any rate, Akrura came, and after much difficulty, convinced Nanda and Jasoda to place Krishna and Balaram in his care, and Krishna invited all the cowherd boys, you come with me, we're going for wrestling, this will be great fun. And everyone came along. About halfway between Vrindavan and Mathura is this place. And previously, in ancient times, the Jamuna River ran through here. And Akrura stopped to take a light bath and refreshment, rejuvenate himself for the journey ahead. As he went into the Jamuna River, he bathed and then began to say his Gayatri and looked, and there, in the water, at this very place, he saw Krishna and Balaram. But wait, he thought, I've just left them in the chariot. So he got out of the water, went back to the chariot, and saw that they were still there. Oh, it must be the hot sun, he thought. Then he went back to the Jamuna River, and there again he saw Krishna and Balaram. Only this time, Krishna and Balaram manifested themselves into different forms. Balaram became the Seshananta serpent, and Krishna became the four-armed Vishnu lying on him. And in this way, he understood there is no difference in the different forms of the Lord. This was also Krishna's trick to be able to leave himself here in Vrindavan and send another form outside. As we all know, Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. 500 years ago, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to this holy land of Vrindavan in its very undeveloped state, he would stay here at Akrura Ghat under a famous banyan tree and sleep there at night. Then during the day, he would go into Vrindavan itself to the Imtali tree and sit there and do his bhajan and his japa. And then visiting the different forests around Vrindavan, he would return here to Akrura Ghat to spend his evenings. So in both Krishna Leela and Gaura Leela, we find this is a very important place of pilgrimage. If one goes to this ancient banyan tree, which is actually a kalpavriksha tree, and prays for enthusiasm and inspiration in the process of devotional service, all such desires are easily granted here. Just as Akrura was able to get that vision of the Lord at this exact place. Of course, Srila Prabhupada's encouragement for us to come to the Dham was not to come as a tourist. Sometimes you see devotees, they come and they spend most of their time in Loi Bazaar or going this place and that place with the wrong attitude. Actually, the real mood of the devotee when they come to Vrindavan is as a beggar, begging for the mercy of the Lord, begging for service to the Vaishnavas, and begging for service to the very Dham itself. This is the secret of actually relishing the benefits of coming to the Dham. During the month of Kartik, so many activities are glorified, and one of the most glorified activities is to visit the Dham. Srila Prabhupada, of course, was aware of all of these things, and this is why he encouraged us. Because by doing these activities, we become enlivened, we become rejuvenated, and then we're able to go back to our service in the western part of the world, whether it's in Europe or Russia or South America or America itself. all of these different places and continue on with that inspiration we get from visiting the Holy Dham. This was Srila Prabhupada's plan when we would come to have parikrams. So in this way, we're trying very seriously to take up this mood that Prabhupada encouraged us. Under the direction of Indradumna Swami and Bhattahari Prabhus, we go to all of these different holy places and try to embrace the mood of that place, listen to some pastimes that took place there, and then take those pastimes in our heart, both as something we can share with others when we return to our preaching place, and as something that will inspire us for the coming year until we can return back here again. So this is a place not many ISKCON devotees know about or come to, but it is a wonderfully quiet place. The surrounding village is very undeveloped, much like the old times that many of us remember Vrindavan being. So we've been very happy to come here, and we ask that you join us at each of the places we go to over this next month as we do our Braj Mandala Vrindavan Parikram 2019. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.